It's true, the Harris interview did feel like a very special episode of Oprah, but instead of everybody getting a new car, everybody got an aneurysm.
Joe Rogan is calling out Oprah and Michelle Obama for hypocritical speeches at the DNC. Watch.
She's up there talking about income inequality. Like, hey, lady.
Yeah, I know.
You're rich as Like, how is that equal? And also, when Michelle Obama was saying, you know, I think she was saying her mother or grandmother was always suspicious of people who took more than they needed.
Yes.
Like, you are worth so much money.
Take more than they need. The Obamas have 4 mansions.
Greg Gutfeld and Joe Rogan didn't hold back, and they weren't joking around either. With sharp wit and straight talk, they took aim at Oprah Winfrey, a figure long seen as untouchable. What they did went far beyond casual criticism. They openly questioned the image Oprah has spent decades building: her charm, her influence, and the media empire she controls. This wasn't a comedy sketch or a playful jab. It felt more like a serious reality check, one that caught many people off guard, including Oprah herself. Gutfeld and Rogan weren't being disrespectful. They were challenging the comfortable narrative people have accepted for years. Their message was clear: it's time to take a closer look at the power and privilege behind the scenes. Since then, their comments have sparked a much bigger conversation. People are now asking questions they might have avoided before. The once flawless image of Oprah is beginning to show cracks, and many are starting to see her in a very different light. What was once seen as beyond criticism is now the center of an unexpected public debate, and that shift.
She also brought us Dr. Oz and The Secret. We have to remember what this lady has done.
She has to be held accountable.
I forgive her, but I mean, cut the shit. The Secret is a particularly egregious offense.
What, you don't believe?
You don't believe? Believe?
I want to be rich. I am rich.
I imagine myself flying. I can fly. I will beat my wings until I take off.
Greg Gutfeld came prepared, and he wasn't there to play nice. This time, his focus was on Oprah Winfrey, and he approached the subject with serious intent. Known for his ability to cut through the noise, Gutfeld didn't just throw out one-liners or casual jokes. He took a careful, pointed approach, breaking down the public image Oprah has maintained for decades. He walked viewers through it all: the charm, the power, the influence, and the storylines many have accepted without question. Gutfeld didn't rely on shock value. Instead, his words were thoughtful, deliberate, and meant to challenge the status quo. Rather than treat Oprah as someone beyond criticism, he asked the questions that few have had the nerve to voice. This wasn't about trying to tear down a public figure for fun. It was about holding someone with immense cultural and financial influence to the same level of accountability we expect from others. And as Gutfeld laid out his points, piece by piece, the carefully built image of Oprah started to look less bulletproof. He didn't deny her accomplishments, but he made it clear that even icons should face scrutiny. Fame, after all, doesn't make someone immune to fair questions or critical thinking. And now, thanks to Gutfeld's bold take, more people are pausing to reconsider what they've long believed about Oprah. What's real? What's carefully managed PR? And what parts of the story have we ignored just because it's easier to admire than to question? Gutfeld sparked a conversation that's still unfolding, one that may just change how we view not only Oprah, but all public figures placed on pedestals for too long.
It wasn't too extravagant.
What's up?
Yeah.
It was one of the more I want to say disturbing, but it was confusing when that was taking hold with people. When I had friends that were telling me that The Secret is real and that they imagined they were going to fulfill these childhood dreams that they had about whatever, being a fucking astronaut, whatever it would be. There's a couple people that I knew that were trying to tell me that The Secret was going to be the thing, and that they had a vision board and they had photographs, they put pictures up of the things that they wanted. Like them in front of large crowds and shit. I'm like, oh boy.
Greg Gutfeld and Joe Rogan didn't just toss out a few casual remarks about Oprah. They shook up the entire conversation around her public image. With their usual mix of sharp wit and unfiltered honesty, the two personalities dug deeper than most have dared. What they delivered wasn't a comedy segment or a typical celebrity roast. It was something far more serious and thought-provoking. They took aim at everything Oprah is known for: her likability, her influence, her massive media empire. But instead of simply poking fun, they asked hard questions. Questions that made people stop and really think about who Oprah is beyond the headlines and the spotlight. For years, she's been seen as a cultural icon, someone beyond criticism. But thanks to Gutfeld and Rogan, that long-standing perception is beginning to shift. this wasn't an attack for the sake of attention. It was a challenge to the narrative, one that urged the public to look past the surface and examine the reality behind the image. And what followed was unexpected. People who once saw Oprah as untouchable are now reconsidering, wondering how much of her legacy is genuine and how much is carefully curated. What happened caught everyone off guard, including Oprah herself. But now that the conversation has started, it's not fading into the background. Gutfeld and Rogan opened the door to a new level of dialogue, and more people are stepping through it, ready to ask what's real, what's been hidden, and what it all really means.
If somebody breaks in my house, they're getting shot.
Yes, I hear that.
Tim Dillon is the best. Tim Dillon's like, she's saying gypsy curses. What is she saying?
Greg Gutfeld and Joe Rogan took a bold step that instantly caught people's attention. With their signature humor and straightforward style, they didn't just take playful jabs at Oprah, they went deeper. They challenged the public image she's spent decades building, questioning the charm, power, and far-reaching influence that most people rarely dare to critique. This wasn't about cheap laughs or headline-grabbing drama. It was a direct reminder that no one, no matter how famous or respected, should be above honest conversation and accountability. Gutfeld and Rogan pushed back against the idea that Oprah's legacy is untouchable, and in doing so, they opened up a space for real dialogue. Now, for the first time in a long while, people are looking at Oprah with fresh eyes. Her carefully maintained image is being re-examined, and many are starting to ask, how much of it is authentic, and how much is just a polished story we've all accepted for too long?
Miraculously, she survived just the unimaginable. Her name is Charla Nash. Charla almost always covers her face with the hat and scarf. She wears it, she says, because she doesn't want to scare people. Do you mind lifting the veil? Oh, no. So we can see.
You could take the hat off.
Oh, the hat comes off.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Greg Gutfeld didn't hold back when it came to calling out the gap between Oprah's public image and her real lifestyle. He questioned the idea that Oprah is still the relatable figure she once portrayed, someone who rose from humble beginnings and stayed grounded. Greg pointed out that while Oprah has long presented herself as down-to-earth, she now lives on a $100 million estate with luxuries that are far beyond the reach of everyday people, including her own private avocado orchard. His argument was clear. It's tough to claim you're just like everyone else when your life looks nothing like the average person's. He noted that it's unlikely Oprah's shopped at a place like Target in years, yet she continues to give advice to regular folks as if she still understands what their daily lives are like. Much of that advice, while well-meaning, often sounds more like catchy slogans than anything grounded in real-world experience. Greg made it clear that being wealthy or successful isn't the issue. The real problem, he said, is when celebrities continue to act like they're part of the crowd, even when their lives are completely different. That kind of messaging, in his view, feels out of touch, and more people are starting to notice.
Stick with a bandana full of my belongings.
Yes.
That's all I want.
That's all you want.
That's all I want,
Yeah.
Santa.
Yeah.
I looked at this list, and you know what wasn't on there?
Greg Gutfeld didn't mince words when it came to Oprah's reach and influence. He pointed out that over the years, she became the go-to authority on just about everything from health and politics to spirituality and even home decorating. At one point, he joked that if Oprah endorsed shoelaces, they'd instantly shoot to the top of Amazon's bestseller list. But rather than praise that kind of influence, Greg called it what he believed it really was: excessive. He coined it influence inflation, saying that if Oprah claimed the sky was green, a good portion of the public might rush to repaint their roofs to match. Greg didn't stop there. He also took aim at the celebrity culture that surrounds Oprah. Stars who treat her less like a media icon and more like a modern-day oracle. He questioned how someone who built a brand on being authentic and relatable ended up constantly surrounded by polished, image-conscious celebrities who seem more interested in public perception than real substance. Greg described it as building a house of truth but filling it with holograms, people who look real on the surface but aren't bringing much depth. While Greg delivered his criticism with precision and a sense of humor, Joe Rogan came in with a heavier hand. If Greg was the scalpel, Joe was the hammer. Rogan's take on Oprah was more direct, more forceful, and left a lasting impression. His remarks weren't about small inconsistencies. They raised big questions about the foundation of Oprah's empire. The result? Viewers were left wondering whether her carefully built legacy could stand up to this kind of public pressure.
But Oprah sold it. I mean, she was one of the big ones, man.
She was all in.
She was fucking 50 years old at the time. I mean, this is not a young woman who is selling this. How old is Oprah now?
75.
89? No, she just ran a marathon in 4 hours.
Next voice. Joe Rogan didn't waste time getting to the heart of what he sees as the problem with Oprah's public image. He started by poking fun at the way people talk about her, not just as a successful talk show host, but almost like a spiritual figure. He joked that some treat Oprah as if she discovered kindness or was the first person to understand emotional pain. To Joe, that level of praise is over the top. He sees Oprah as a brilliant communicator and a savvy TV host, someone who turned vulnerability into a business model. But the way she's often talked about, you'd think she was walking on water. Rogan then shifted to more serious criticism. He called out some of Oprah's most questionable moments, like her support for trendy wellness fads and the promotion of self-help ideas that, in his view, often lack substance or science. He argued that Oprah helped turn pseudoscience into pop culture, selling spiritual enlightenment like it was a limited-time offer. Behind the heartfelt messaging, Joe saw a skilled marketer who packaged inspiration into a profitable brand. He also pointed out the contradictions in her message. How can someone who constantly talks about humility and gratitude build an empire by capitalizing on people's insecurities? How does someone who speaks about self-love also make millions promoting diet programs? Joe's argument was that Oprah mastered the art of identifying people's emotional struggles, then selling them the tools to fix those problems, all while positioning herself as someone who had been through it too. And then, of course, there's the wealth, the private jets, the lavish estates, the luxury most people will never touch. Joe didn't shy away from it. He highlighted how Oprah encourages regular folks to stay grounded and live within their means, all while living a life of extreme privilege, right down to bathtubs carved from rare stones. That gap between what she preaches and how she actually lives is what Joe says bothers him most. It's not the success itself that's the issue, it's the disconnect between the message and the reality. Greg Gutfeld and Joe Rogan sparked a conversation that many people have quietly avoided for years. Criticizing Oprah isn't like calling out just any celebrity. For some, it's more like questioning a national icon. People often react as though it's off limits, even disrespectful. But that's exactly what sets Greg and Joe apart. They're willing to say the things others tiptoe around.